You know, the same exact technology that's writing your emails and making those wild profile pictures, well, it's also quietly rewriting the entire story of the climate fight. A huge new challenge is popping up from the very same revolution that could help us solve it. It's really setting up a race between two completely different futures. So, which one is it going to be? Climate villain or climate hero? Let's dig in. So the big question for this whole explainer, it's pretty simple, but it's also really profound. It's this. Are we going to use artificial intelligence to cut our emissions faster than it burns through electricity? That's it. That's the whole game right there. To really get a handle on the stakes, let's start with just the size of the problem. Right now, every single year, global CO2 emissions from fossil fuels hit a staggering 37.4 billion tons. I mean, that number is almost impossible to wrap your head around, but that is the mountain we have to climb. Okay, now let's look at the threat side of things. AI's piece of the puzzle. By 2030, the International Energy Agency thinks that data centers are going to need almost 945 terawatt hours of electricity. Just to put that into perspective, that's more energy than entire countries like Germany or Canada use in a year. This is a massive new strain on our global power grids. But here's the other side of the coin, right? The opportunity. If we do this smartly, AI could help us get rid of up to 5.4 times billion tons of emissions every year. That is more than 10% of that huge global total we just saw. So yeah, the potential here is just enormous. So let's start with the first part of this story, the negative side of the ledger. We have to be really clear-eyed about AI's growing environmental footprint. It's a big deal. And here's the crucial thing you've got to remember. Any new demand for electricity today, right now, is basically being plugged into a grid that is still 60% powered by fossil fuels. So more electricity use, by default, just means more emissions. Simple as that. And you know what's really wild here? It's the speed of this change. The electricity demand from data centers is on track to more than double in just a handful of years. This is not some slow, gradual thing. It's an absolute explosion in how much energy we're using. And we know exactly what's driving it. AI is going from this pretty small slice of the data center pie to potentially half of all the power they use by 2030. It is the single biggest reason for that soaring demand curve. And it's not just about electricity. The hidden costs go way beyond that. We're talking about millions of gallons of fresh water just to keep these data centers cool, a huge appetite for critical minerals to build the hardware, and a growing e-waste problem as we replace old chips at a crazy pace. Okay, so that's the problem. That's the scary part. Now let's flip this around and look at the other side, the solution. How can this incredibly energy-hungry technology actually become a climate hero? You know, it really just boils down to three main things. AI helps us see the planet in much higher resolution, it lets us control our physical systems with way more intelligence, and it helps us optimize pretty much everything for maximum efficiency faster than we've ever been able to before. So first up, seeing better. This is all about AI's incredible knack for sifting through these massive, complex datasets. We're talking everything from satellite images to weather sensors and just spotting patterns that a human being would totally miss. And we are already seeing this happen. Google's GraphCast AI, for example, is now making more accurate 10-day weather forecasts than our best old-school models. What does that mean? It means earlier, better warnings for things like hurricanes and heat waves. At the same time, you've got other AIs scanning satellite data to find big methane leaks or illegal deforestation almost the moment it happens. I love this quote because it perfectly captures the next step. So, after seeing the world better, AI can start to control it. It takes all that intelligence from the data and puts it to work in the real world. It stops being sci-fi and becomes, well, a really, really good thermostat. And we've got solid proof that this works. Google's Project Greenlight used AI to optimize traffic lights, and just by cutting down on stop-and-go traffic, it reduced vehicle emissions at intersections by 10%. Now, just imagine applying that same logic to the HVAC systems in our buildings, or managing when millions of EVs charge up. The savings start to add up really, really fast. So, we've got the villain and we've got the hero. Let's bring them both together and just look at the raw numbers. What is the net impact when we put AI's footprint right up against its potential to help out? And wow, when you actually compare the two, the difference in scale is just staggering.
By 2035, yeah, data centers might add around 300 million tons of CO2. But by using AI in our biggest emitting sectors, power, transportation, food, we could cut up to 5.4 billion tons. The potential for savings is more than 10 times bigger than the cost.
And this right here is the most critical takeaway from all of this. The math works, the potential is clearly there. But, and this is a big but, this positive outcome is not a guarantee. It's not just going to happen on its own. It is a choice we have to actively make about how we use this technology. So that brings us to the final and, frankly, the most important part. What are the choices we need to make sure AI ends up on the right side of this climate story?
Well, there are basically three big rules for this race. First, we absolutely have to power AI with clean energy. An AI running on coal is a climate problem. An AI running on nuclear and wind is a huge part of the solution. Second, we have to be smart about where we aim this thing, focusing it on optimizing our power grids and heavy industry, not just, serving up more ads. And third, we need smart policy, because the market left to its own devices will not automatically solve for climate stability.
In the end, it really all comes down to this. AI is a tool. A ridiculously powerful one, sure, but it's still just a tool. It doesn't have its own intentions. It's not going to save the planet for us, but it can be the single most powerful tool we have to help us do the saving and do it faster, cheaper, and at the massive scale this problem demands. So the tech is here. The potential is crystal clear. The only real question left is whether our policies, our priorities, our choices are smart enough to wield it effectively. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Where should we aim this powerful new tool first?